Hello and welcome to the latest instalment in the IQ Lunch and Learn webinars. My name is Sarah Fry. I'm the Head of Membership and Marketing here at the Institute of Quarrying. Today's topic is all about workplace communication. Does doing less really mean more? It's aligned to the range of topics that we have in the skills wheel and is part of the activities under the engagement, influence and impact segment of that skills wheel. After the webinar today, the webinar is being recorded, so it will be made available to all registrants, so look out for the follow-up email with the links to the recording. This presentation was actually recorded yesterday, so unfortunately we won't be able to take any live questions today, but if the webinar does prompt any questions, please do email them through to us. We will get them answered for you and we'll send the answers to the questions out to all registrants with the webinar at the end of the sessions. The next presentation after today will be about managing and measuring the value of team performance, and that's going to be delivered by a colleague of ours from the University of Derby. So that will be sent out next week for more information and details about how you can register for the next webinar. At the end of today's session, you will receive a short feedback form. Please do take the time to complete this, as it helps us to develop the webinars for the future and make sure that the topics that we're presenting are the topics that you want to hear about. Just before I introduce today's webinar speaker and topic, I just want to draw your attention to the upcoming events that are taking place around the country through our different branches. If you want any more information, please contact any of the branches. Details are on the branches section of the website. So now onto today's webinar topic. Communication in the workplace has been increasingly influenced by the digital age, and I'm going to hand over to Dave Moss of Wingman Performance Consultants, who'll take you through the presentation. Thank you very much.
Greetings everyone. My name's Dave Moss and I work for a company called Wingman. We're based in the East Midlands. We're a people performance consultancy. It's my pleasure today to spend a few minutes, about 20 minutes or so, to show you some slides, a video as well, to look at some of the issues around workplace communications, to hopefully offer you some tips and techniques to improve your own. Look, this is a vast subject, and I could never hope to do it justice in a short webinar like this. Final thing, of course, is to say that this is my own input, and any of the views I express here are just my own. So that lets the IQ off the hook, doesn't it, if I say something controversial. Hey, let's have a look at some aims. I'm going to share a few rules, I'll call them thoughts or rules, on what effective communicators do. Things I've come across in my journey today. Being an effective communicator has one main purpose, and that's to make your own boat go faster, as the expression says, to get to where you want to get to quicker and better. Whatever you do in your work, in life, the fact remains that communicating effectively is basically a navigation exercise, which means steering messages like a ship across an ocean to a destination. Enough metaphors for now. The IQ has asked me to come along because we're already working with the IQ. Wingman has an accredited program with the IQ, and we recognise through the skills wheel that communication is an important part of the engagement, influence and impact segment. The IQ identifies communication on its skills wheels as part of a wider competence. Whatever role we perform, whether you're a leader, manager, supervisor or operator, it doesn't matter. How good we are at communication has a major impact on how successful we are in making our own boat go faster. Effective people, some here, are usually good at communicating. They work hard at presenting their messages in the right way to their audience and usually manage to get their message across with fewer words than most of us. You're a good communicator. Well, let's start with asking this question. What is effective communication? When I ask it, the groups of people I work with, they always have something to say about it. Well, so we can tell you what's wrong. We've got too much of it, or too little of it, or the wrong place, the wrong time, or via the wrong method for us. The list just goes on. When I ask people what is effective communication, we hear less about the good stuff. Is this your experience? Well, what does communication mean? Well, to me, communication is about information, the transfer of information and the sharing of meaning. We've got more information, more sharing today than ever before. Let's take a look at some of the issues behind that. First and foremost, though, communication is a two-way process. Any message has a sender and a receiver or group of receivers. There's no doubt that you can't beat the two-way face-to-face meeting over anything else, a sketchy email or a short telephone call. It beats someone. But meeting people usually takes time, and of course digital communication methods, phone calls or written messages, emails or other systems are often more convenient, but are they more effective? Well, let's see this. If you look, listen and speak, face-to-face communication has all of this, and it's not just about the words though. It includes the use of body language, which supports the message, subconsciously builds rapport between individuals, and empathy. Both parties start to bond. My first choice, when wishing to make a message stick or to get to know another person's view, is to opt for a face-to-face meeting. But I have to weigh up the cost. If I know someone well, if you know someone well, a phone call is just as effective because the relationship is already built. It's strong enough for non-verbal means. On other occasions, we need detail or confirmation, and only the written word will do. Now, this is fine. This method certainly has its place for long periods of time in our history. It has, but there are problems with written word. It depends on the quality of the sender and receiver to understand the language. We all know about hastily written short messages that lead to misinterpretations and incompleteness of understanding, and finally leads to games of tennis between people, which takes up valuable time. Not good. So what do I know about communication? Well, before I did what I did, I was in the Royal Navy, followed by the Royal Air Force. I had a career as a flyer and a trainer. For the past 15 years, however, I brought this learning into organisations in the UK and overseas. And part of my role today is to help people, businesses, make their collective boats go faster. Improving effectiveness also includes improving communication skills. The last aircraft I showed on the slide was a Tornado. For about 5 years, I was a navigator in this aeroplane, and I want to draw on that experience now. So my first rule about communication, which I learned in the cockpit of a jet, sat 3 feet behind a pilot, communicating with intercoms internally, radios externally. Well, we took to the skies with multiple other aircraft. We coordinated efforts and operated great distances apart, either by pre-arrangement or use of radio messages. So I learned that we had to have very, very high levels of communication discipline to ensure the airways remained free of unnecessary chatter. Only essential information was shared. Messages were kept as brief as possible. We were less distracted, and we could concentrate on the job at hand. And in an environment like aviation, this was important. And our comms philosophy here was called the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. I've no idea where it came from, but it actually still applies today. We practiced this behaviour constantly, and we were ruthless with each other over poor communication and discipline issues. It was in this office that they learned the value of less directives than the armed forces have some similarities, such as teams and individuals, often working with limited supervision over long hours in all weathers. regard for safety, compliance, expectation. Well, there's a paradox here. Today, we bemoan information overload. Too much information can truly disable us. It's like a tsunami. And in volume and intensity, the information itself is really good. It enables us to achieve ever more with our time. But on the other hand, it constantly threatens us. It threatens us because it can Are we a slave to it? Let's have a look at some of the issues behind why it's a problem. Communications themselves between people act as triggers. Triggers for most of us to respond. Let's look back. This response is conditioned. What do you mean, Dave? Well, we're conditioned to want to communicate. We've got a lot of practice out of it. It's not just since the arrival of the smartphone. Evolution has put this into our heads. We're human and we've learned to communicate. But we've not adapted well to the rapid rise in digital technology. You see, we're playing catch up. It's part of our psyche because we evolved as social creatures. We've got a subconscious need to communicate. 100,000 years ago or so, long before the emergence of settled society, our ancestors across the world formed into hunter-gatherer communities and did together in small, tight-knit groups. These communities developed languages to communicate ever more complex messages. First, totally paralanguage, and then the written or spoken word. These could not be delivered by non-verbal means, and language enabled deeper bonding of individuals and groups, together stimulating the release of positive brain hormones, such as dopamine and serotonin. These enhance feelings of well-being. Communication makes us feel good. For millennia, the success of our species rested upon us being good at communication, sharing knowledge and information in order to evolve. All well and good. So our society has evolved. It's passed from agrarian to industrial and now post-industrial, digital age, as what people call it. And this pace of change has accelerated, and with it so has the pace of technological change, which has had a dramatic effect on our ability to adapt to our behaviours, and it in itself is causing us some stress, certainly in our culture. We barely learned to use one piece of technology, from simple printing presses through to radio telephones, through to fax internets and so on, before we end up having it replaced by something else. In a world full of distractions, I want to pull us back to the work of someone called Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey is most famous for his book titled 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and he offers us some tips. Amongst his research, he came up with an idea that in life there are tasks which are either important, which contribute to key roles or goals, which make boat go faster, or they're described as urgent, something with the appearance of requiring immediate attention. He created a grid with 4 quadrants, and he mapped important against urgent and not important against not urgent. As we find ourselves increasingly enabled by technology, Covey also said we're all increasingly aware of things like crises, urgent, important things that have to be done, and many of us experience these pressing problems, deadline-driven projects, where our communications must be short, sharp, and to the point. But Covey's work sheds light on the complete opposite type of problem. Not important, not urgent information. He called this trivia. Technology has enabled us greater access to trivia, which can include some mail, calls, time wasters, easy activities and pleasure identified an area which he named time stealers. This area of the quadrant are tasks which appear on the outset to be urgent, but they're really not that important. They are things that we do that don't make the boat go faster. Ever been to a meeting you didn't need to be at? Ever had to produce a report or do a task that didn't really make a difference? These are interruptions, some calls, emails, reports, or meetings. Sometimes popular activities generated by ourselves. Covey's last grid is the grid he implores everyone to end up working in when they can. This grid, the planning or golden zone, is called the prevention and planning activities area, which can include relationship building, new customers, clients, new opportunities, making plans for the future about people and products and projects, and also rest time. They are important, but they don't appear urgent. They're the things that always go to the back of the queue. And in communication terms, these are often things that get dropped. Our question really is, why are time stealers and trivias on the rise? Time stealer and trivia are increasing. Have you ever been in a room where everyone's talking and no one is truly listening? Try going to social media. Our conclusion is that, as a rule, we like to talk and be distracted more than we like to act. That's why quadrant 2 will always exist, and we humans will always want to rush out to quadrant 4. If we can control ourselves, we might spend less time in quadrant 3. So my third rule is to stay focused. Some of you may recognise this picture. Reverend Richard Coles, broadcaster, cleric, former pop musician, aka the Communard. He's a self-confessed social media addict. Recently speaking on Radio 2 in March of this year, he gave up social media for the Lent period, and after a few days of withdrawal symptoms and cold turkey, as he said, he felt truly liberated of the need to check his mobile phone device every few minutes, giving him time to concentrate on other tasks. He announced that since this move, he's getting more done in his day than ever before. Are we digitally distracted? Quite a lot of people have done some work on this. Allegedly, office workers check email and phones on average every 6 minutes. Do you? Digital distraction is a very real issue. It affects some more than others. Check your pockets to see if there's a phone in there. Many see stalling productivity growth in the UK as partly, not wholly, partly a consequence of our time spent on unproductive communications. People are working longer hours but seem to be reducing less. Some countries have actually taken the lead on managing this. Germany, for example, they barred out of hours business to workforce communications. Would that work for us? The FOMO, or fear of missing out problem about social media, is actually a key issue. So my fourth rule is to try to minimise distractions. What does that mean? Well, the list is endless, but here are a few. The first one is multitasking is not actually possible. Multitasking takes time. You lose 28% of your brain each day that you work on multitasking. Go back to Stephen Covey. Do the first things first, said Covey in his book. Actually, he's right. Do one task at a time. And that's the same with communication. Complete the messaging as possible, much as possible. Switch off to non-work communications when you're not at work. Leave mobile devices turned off and e-message alerts silenced. These are tricks. Notifications on and alerts are particularly poor, particularly bad at distracting us. So try to set up filters on things like email inboxes. I don't recommend wearing of headphones in a safety-driven environment, but there are some other tips that you can take forward. I recently heard of a manager in an aggregates business who saved himself hundreds of hours of unproductive time driving his car between his sites each year. He now holds meetings with managers via video facility on his phone. Try it out if you haven't. Yeah, you do need a good internet connection and someone under the age of 25 to show you how to set it up, I know. So technology is here, it's here to stay, it's not going away. Why don't we use it and don't fight it? Some of us always often play a game of cons catch up with technology. You know, where will it end? Where's it going? Already phones are talking back to us, aren't they, Alexa, Siri, etc. And anyone with a young adult in their lives will appreciate that the coming generations of workers have a preference for instant messaging as compared to good old talk or phone calls. Let's not go down that rabbit hole, but it's the way it is. These changes are real and they're not going to reverse. So for the majority of us brought up using old school face-to-face comms as standard, how about getting some of this tech to help? Tech may help, but it won't stop us having flaws in the way we communicate when we are face-to-face. If any of you are like me and struggle a little bit with listening skills, perhaps you should apply the ratio 2 to 1. Truly great communicators listen well, and to do that, they talk less and concentrate on the speakers. I like the ratio 2 to 1. 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. Talk only when you really must. Omit needless words and listen actively, which means focus fully on the speaker if you can. Focus on their words and, if you are visual, their body language. Clear your mind of other thoughts and you'll get a much more productive understanding of what's being said. So whilst I'm trying to drive you into making face-to-face communications, it doesn't matter where you are, but if you are communicating with the audience in a language that they understand, I don't mean speaking foreign languages, I mean where jargon is reduced to a minimum. Attention spans in the world are falling. This is a product of social media and trends and technology as much as anything else. But in order to help navigate this, to keep our terminology free of jargon and buzzwords, communication should have meaning, not just to the sender, but also to the audience. It's a two-way thing, of course. See, on a summer holiday, for example, few words spoken to a foreign waiter or shop assistant in their native tongue will carry a huge amount of goodwill. And a good communicator will always make an effort to try to match their language to the audience by carefully using words which have that shared meaning. I couldn't get away without putting SMART into the webinar. We use SMART as a tool to describe behaviours for all leaders and managers, but we can apply it to our communications instead, making them specific, and if it's task-focused, measurable, seeking two-way agreement, making our realistic and time frames. It's all well and good, but it should be supplemented by rule number 9 to be truly effective. What do I mean by that? Some of you may have come across the 6 W's. 6 W's stands for the who, the what, the where, when, why, and how of the message. It's been adapted by a poem written by Rudyard Kipling, he of the Jungle Book fame. And 6 W's is a brilliant method, which, if you follow it, when you're acting as a receiver or a questioner in a discourse, following the 6 W's to ensure you have each one of them will guarantee that every single detail of a message that's required is received. In Wingman, we use this model a lot in our management training programs. We practice it. We believe that gathering information is just as much of a skill as giving it out. Oh, and finally, the joke, and it was a 19th century one, is that the last W is buried at the bottom of the word how. Yes, your sides are splitting, I can feel it here. Rule number 10, context. This is the last one. Context. For leaders, this is vital. Aesop's fable about a shepherd boy who, when looking after the sheep in the hills, cried wolf over and over again. And each time he cried, the villagers came running. At first they came in large numbers, and eventually, because there was no wolf, they stopped coming. Unfortunately, there was a wolf, but his last calls were ignored with fatal consequences. The message? Choose the right time, the right place, the right context for the messaging, and it will be successful. Carpet bombing, messaging, and unnecessarily long and imprecise messaging will not achieve the same impact as a short, effective message. Proof that context is everything? Well, look up nudge theory of behavioural psychology on the internet. Scarily true that if we actually address a message in the right way, the audience will respond better. Show a picture of a donut card. What do I mean by that? Well, it recognises, nudge theory that is, that in a free society where people are given free choice, such as in the UK, they have the choice whether or not to carry an organ donation card. Should they have an untimely death, their organs may be donated to someone who may need them. Most people in this country agree with the idea, and repeated surveys have confirmed this. However, the uptake of the card was only 15% of the adult population. Only 15% bothered to register, even though the vast majority of people think it's a good idea. This is an example of why most of us like to talk a lot, but we're inactive. The UK government used nudge theory to reverse the question. They applied the principles and thought, if we carefully message the population to say, we understand you all agree that organ donation is a good idea, we're going to change it to make you have to opt out of having your organs donated. And that has led to 85% of the population now being registered without actually doing anything. Hey presto, the vast majority of us who agreed are now organ donors. Let's hope it doesn't have to come to pass that we need to donate. And finally, in conclusion, one more picture, but this is a story. This is a story about a fly. In a world flooded with information, and simple messages are most important work. My final comment is that in this story of a fly, but it's not a real fly, it's a fly that was painted into a urinal at the optimum aiming spot for a minimum splash. First seen in the gentleman's toilets at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. The authorities there successfully used a little nudge theory or lateral thinking to message the users to be a bit more precise in their aiming, and so successfully reduce the amount of cleaning required in the vicinity of the said facilities. This message, very simple, was a KISS message. To keep it simple, stupid. And therein lies the message. Therein is the end. So thank you all for giving me the time to talk to you. I'd be delighted to hear from you with any questions, feedback or discussions. Please feel free to contact me on either of the numbers, on the number or the other methods shown below. Thank you.
Right, thank you to Dave and Wingman for that presentation, and apologies for the loss of sound there about halfway through his presentation. When we get the webinar links out with a full recording, we will make sure that's rectified. As mentioned, the next presentation is going to be the managing and measuring the value of team performance, which will be delivered by a colleague from the University of Derby's Business School. So more details on that to follow out shortly. As I mentioned at the beginning, these sessions are recorded with the slides fully available for anybody who has registered for the webinar. So just keep an eye out for the email from us with the respective links for that. And if you do have the chance, please provide your feedback at the end of today's session and the questionnaire that will be displayed to you shortly. Hope you've enjoyed today's session. Thank you again for joining us, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you.